Welcome, everybody. Let's go Niners. My name is Jason Aponte. Welcome in, 49er fans. I am Jason Aponte. That is Steph Sanchez of the 49K podcast, dual stream on both channels. Steph, how are you today before we get into the big breaking news?
Suddenly, I'm feeling very great. You would think I got paid like $1 million or whatnot, or that I won like the Mega Millions. That didn't happen though. But I'm happy for the news that we just heard come in.
Absolutely. And look, for everybody that's here, make sure you like this video on both channels, subscribe to the channels, hit that notification bell when you guys know when we are going live. Still live from training camp at this point. Unfortunately, there was no practice today, but hey, look at this big news coming out. And look, before I get to one or two of my victory laps here on this channel, talking about the Deebo Samuel thing, this past weekend, it felt like this was already gravitating to that. Deebo Samuel was at practice. He wasn't working in any capacity, but I felt that they were moving at a good pace. And guess what? Tomorrow is the day that they actually put pads on. So all of this stuff kind of lines up a little bit real quick. Steph, give me your instant reaction to Deebo Samuel signing a deal $100,000 less than DK Metcalf in terms of guaranteed money, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is definitely interesting. But the thing I always consider when looking at these guaranteed numbers when they first come out, right, is that, we don't really know how that is structured or what is truly guaranteed until the full details of these deals start coming out. So while it may look like Metcalf got a little bit more, it may not seem that way. And I mean, honestly, if Debo agreed to this, it's obviously something that he's happy with, his agent is happy with. So I'm just happy that they got this done at all.
Yeah, and look, I'm going to go through the details real quick, and I want to make sure that we talk about this. So Ian Rappaport is reporting that it is a 3-year extension worth $73.5 million max with 71 and 71.55 total. The guarantee is $58.1 million. He'll be 29 years old entering the last year of his deal and the potential for another massive deal. I think that was kind of important too, as well, is to think about that. Is this is a massive extension, and yet by the end of it, 29, and he'll be able to get into a whole other contract. Kyle, you're too kind. Starting the fun to get Aponte to move to the Bay. Hey, if good things are going to happen while I'm out here, then you know what? I may take one for the team. You have to send a little bit more though, because I have to import Averly over here too. I can't be without Averly. That's what was making me go back. So, but I want again to reiterate a point that I've made many times when it came to this whole situation with Deebo Samuel. Your problem wasn't with Deebo Samuel and the way he handled things. Your problem is that this is the way it will be handled going forward in this social media era. And Deebo Samuel wasn't the only one who did it. A.J. Brown did it. Guess what? Got traded, got paid. Kyler Murray did it. Guess what? Got paid. Got to study, and he's got to get in the room. Oh, wait, they took that out. But I think the problem is that people confused frustration at a certain point with the negotiation process as to he's just gone and he's done with it. George Kittle's agent described the first deal offer that he got as the St. Valentine's Day massacre. Frustration and immediately trying to get out is two different things, in my opinion. And again, he wasn't an impending free agent. It's not like other teams could get in there. If the 49ers really wanted to play hardball, it's like, okay, sit out, but we have your team control for this entire time. So the logical standpoint, like when you start to go through it, there was nowhere for him to go unless he wanted to play hardball and just not play. And I never foresaw that. So that's why none of this ever really mattered to me. None of that ever mattered to me because it just doesn't make sense when you think about from a team standpoint. Just because you put in a trade request doesn't mean I have to honor that trade request. And I'll let Steph take over from here.
Yeah, well, first I'm gonna apologize because there's some dogs barking in the background, so they're excited too. But yeah, I mean, definitely, I never really saw it being a huge problem. Of course, as a fan, you get some worry when Debo archived some of those pictures. Now the next thing we got to look at is when those pictures are going to be put back up, because they were just archived, they weren't deleted.
And Steph, by the way, we know that Instagram trumps any sort of reality, anything like that. So if he doesn't post a picture within like right now, like in a few minutes after signing the extension, we're gonna go right back to saying, man, I don't know if Debo wants to be here, man.
Yeah, so true. But you know what? I'm most excited about, Debo getting the opportunity finally to start working with Trey Lance, because I think that's something that we've all been kind of chomping at the bit to see him do. We've seen Brandon Ayuk working with Trey Lance this entire offseason, and we've seen already that chemistry translate onto the field in these first few days of training camp. So now Deebo Samuel coming in, kind of, he's been running on the side, but he hasn't been working with Trey Lance as far as we know. So, I mean, Jay, I'm going to ask you, like, what do you think we need to see from Debo these first few days? Monday, do you think they ease him in? What do you think we can expect?
Well, before I get to that, thank you, Rich Madrid, for your donation. Too many people are pro billionaire and not pro player and get mad when players demand better compensation. As usual, Rich chose facts, and I've had this discussion with many people. I had someone on Twitter say, well, what can't you do with 31 million that you can do with 27? It's none of your business, and he deserves every single dollar of that because he plays a sport where you can literally get paralyzed on any play or lose your marbles and down the line won't have any money. So stop it, man. Like just it's not the same at all. And I'm so pro player that it's not even like close. In terms of this, just repeat your question real quick and then I'll get right back into it.
Yeah, just the fact, what can we expect from Deebo Samuel these first few days that he's going to be pretty much coming in kind of like dry into this training camp, right? Like he hasn't been working with Trey Lance as up to this point, and you think they're going to ease him in. What do you think we can expect?
Yeah, I don't think that you can necessarily say full go right away, but Debo looks fine working on the sideline. He's
I
been
agree.
in team periods after Ayuk makes a catch, running over to him. Like none of this ever felt like a worry, like for anybody
Mhm.
who's like been watching the situation closely. So I would expect them to ramp up eventually, but it is good that tomorrow with pads, we're gonna finally get to evaluate defensive line, offensive line for real. Like we can make all the assumptions we want about the offensive line at this point, but without pads and not being able to really have full contact, do we know the state of this offensive line? I'm gonna take the slower approach and say we don't. And the same thing with this is the complement of weapons isn't there. Debo's not there. Like, no disrespect to the other receivers, but it's Ayuk and then somebody else, and that's not the same of Ayuk, the same as Ayuk and Debo. And I'm very eager with the way that this secondary has played so far to see this play out. Like, I want to see what Debo can do going against Emmanuel Mosley, going against Charvarius Ward. I want to see this, and I think that you'll see it little by little. But this is a perfect first step. Get them ramped up, and I think that Debo doesn't necessarily need as many reps to get ready. Just get him to week one and just hit the ground running.
I agree. As has been the goal this entire offseason for Deebo Samuel, you don't want to risk any injury. And of course, ramping it up too quickly could definitely put you at risk. One thing I want to ask you about, though, Jay, is so this is a 3-year deal extension. DK Metcalf was also a 3-year, which seems kind of short in a way. I mean, AJ Brown got 4. What are your thoughts on the length of this deal? And do you think, who do you think had cared more about how long this deal was for?
I think it's beneficial to both sides, right? Markets change, other guys get deals. 3 years doesn't seem like something you're like hitching your wagon to for too long. If God forbid something happens to Debo, if God forbid, he can't. All right, Debo can't put together the same season that he just put together. You know why? Because nobody's ever done it but him. So you're asking him to do it again. It's like law of averages tells you that that's probably not going to happen. But it's a good way to pay the player, reward them, have them going forward, and then reevaluate in 3 years. And he'll only be 29. You're not talking about an over the hill player at that point. So it behooves both sides because there is another way for it to be an upgrade for him in money if he continues to play well. I think it's best for both sides to do this because you don't hit your wagon for too long. Neither does he, and he gets that chance to get a bigger bag if he continues this level of production.
I agree with you, and I think it is beneficial for both sides. And as some people are saying, it is 3 years after the current year, so technically, 4 years total in that sense. But I do definitely think it's beneficial for the 49ers because I think for them, part of the what I can imagine the negotiation for them was a lot about was maybe they didn't trust that Deebo Samuel can do this or the year that he had last year over a long period of time. Like that was still unproven to me. And he did have some great years. I'm not saying that he didn't, but that same impact that he had last year, which is mostly what Deebo Samuel was, kind of he wanted this big deal because of the year that he had last year. But for the 49ers, I mean, if he didn't do that the entire time he was with the 49ers, then it kind of I can see the 49ers being a little more conservative in that sense. So I think the fact that it's somewhat shorter I think helps the 49ers because for them it's not a huge commitment. And then one thing I also wanted to ask you is the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo, he's still on the roster and a lot of people were saying they can't get this deal done with Jimmy Garoppolo still on the roster.
Not true.
But
That
yeah,
was never true.
obviously not true. Obviously not
That
true.
was never true.
And
Look, Debo's already under contract this year.
yeah,
So any extension
exactly.
would be any extension would be
Go to
after Jimmy Garoppolo being here.
exactly.
So that's why that was never in the way. And I know that's a popular sentiment around people, but Debo's contract doesn't change this year because of this extension. Debo's contract it changes because of the next few years. And that's the difference. Like again, it's easy to run to that. And this is why I stay away from like straight up like the salary cap and what goes on because there's so
Yeah.
many intricacies and things like that. But come on, like it was never that. It was more just people rushing to that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Stuff.
Yeah, no, but also the fact that there's a lot of new TV deals for the NFL, and so the cap is obviously going to go up in the next few years, and that's something that people don't consider as well. So I'm very interested to see how they structured this contract. Yeah, it's nice to see these numbers of 3 years, 71, 55, and 58 guaranteed, but it's all about how it's structured
How many are
and
performance based? Like how much of it is like
exactly.
is like is like you have to hit a certain amount of snaps, or if you make an all pro, all those things.
Yeah, because when it was first reported, it was 71.5, but then Schefter said it could be worth up to 73, right? So I'm
Mhm.
guessing that's with incentives and things like that. So, and the 49ers are always pretty creative with how they structure their contracts, especially knowing that Nick Bosa is now, the next man up to get his extension. So all focus goes to that now. But yeah, I'm very interested to see how they structure this.
Yeah, there was a little bit more urgency for the Debo deal because Nick Bosa has a fifth-year option being a first-round pick. Like, there's always just that little bit more of urgency in terms of Debo and how the league views him. Because when it was out there that he had a trade request, well, we'll send this and this and this, and people were talking about top 10 picks, but the 49ers never budged. Like, they just never did because it was never in their best interest to do that. Again, everybody, the same people that'll look you in the face and say the draft is a crapshoot are the same people that were like, well, if you get the 10th pick, you got to try. Well, not every 10th pick pans out. So, for me, give me the guy that you know. Give me what you know and give me what is I can set my watch to more than anything. So it's always kind of felt like there was only a certain amount of scenarios that could play out. And if the 49ers wanted to trade him, they would have traded. Like once the draft was over, that should have been the end of the discussion. Like that should have been your key to like that's it. You're not going to trade him for next year's picks or anything like that. At that point, it's like we played chicken with you. And now, are you going to come back to the table? And again, money cures all. So, like it never felt to me that he didn't want to be here, but it was clear that he was dissatisfied during the process, and that's what part of negotiations is sometimes you're dissatisfied, but some guys when they get dissatisfied don't say anything.
Hmm.
Some wipe all their pictures and say this and that and leak a trade request through Tom Pelissero, but I don't have any disagreements in the way that they're doing things. They're all going for the similar goal. They want to be paid their worth. So stop telling me that he should stop being greedy. he plays a game where he could like be paralyzed every single time that he goes out there, and he puts his body on the line all the time. So he deserves all that money.
And the timing of all of this, as we've been saying, like all off season, because everyone was freaking out, right, when all of that stuff went down. But the timing of this deal is on par with all of the other most all the other big deals that they've done. Fred Warner, shout out to Akash for tweeting this out. Fred Warner extension was July 21st. George Kittle extension August 14th. Debo today, July 31st. So as always, it's been in this time range. So, to freak out and think that things were final as soon as Debo put out that trade request report, was kind of premature. And of course, it happens with fans. But and I also want to say, like, I want to clarify to the people watching that they've agreed in principle on this deal, and they're still like fine tuning and things like that. One thing that's really cool about all this is the fact that the 49ers have so many of their core in place for the next few years. Matt Barrow just tweeted this out a little bit ago. They have Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, Juice, Trey Lance signed through at least the 2024 season. And 5-year options include Ayuk in 24, Samuel, Kittle, Lance, Juice in 25, and then Trent Williams at 26. So, I mean, that's very exciting to me that this core is going to be good for a really long time. Trey Lance on his rookie deal, the sky's the limit for the next few years. And I think that's another like underlying thing as part of all of this.
Yeah, and this, doesn't really have to be anything more than a quick episode. But now tomorrow pads go on, Tuesday pads go on. Let's just say, Steph, I'll ask you, going forward, like this, the electricity around these practices now, like they go up to like 10 now, right? Like if anybody who wasn't going to Monday's practice, like you're gonna start trying to look for tickets, right?
the moment that Trey Lance connects with Deebo Samuel in any capacity, fans are gonna go crazy. Fans are gonna go crazy, and I'm gonna be, happy that we're gonna be there and see it firsthand. So, yeah, it's definitely an exciting time. I want to see this receiving core all together, as you mentioned earlier. I mean, this is a strong group of receivers, maybe the best that Kyle Shanahan has had at his disposal. And so it's very exciting that Trey Lance is going to be able to take advantage, hopefully, of these guys being out on the field at the same time.
Look, exciting time right now for 49er fans. We'll keep it here. This is a good place to end it. There's going to be much more analysis coming down the pipe from everybody at this point. But while you're here, guys, make sure you like this video on both channels, subscribe to both channels, hit that notification bell on both channels. Both Steph and I will be at practice Monday. So, impromptu Zaddy Ball Monday, like maybe Tuesday before I head out. Make sure you keep your eyes peeled to both channels, man. Anything else that you want to say before we go, Steph? This is a fun time for 49ers fans. Like, knowing that your core is intact going forward, knowing that you have an elite bunch of people going forward that'll be playing for you. It's an exciting time. How many people can say you have the one or two best tight end, you got the best left tackle in the world, you got the best fullback in the world, you got the best linebacker in the world. You might, based on practice, you might have the best cornerback since Deion Sanders in Charvarius Ward at this point, the way he's been playing, man. Like, this is an exciting time for 49ers fans. And how many teams can make this claim?
Yeah, I mean, it's a wonderful time to be a 49er fan. And so just soak it all in. To me, this getting this Debo deal done is kind of like the beginning of the new era for fans and then the team as well. So just soak it all in. It's good times coming for sure.
Yep, absolutely, man. So thank you, Steph, for jumping on with me real quick. We got the day off today, so maybe
we did.
Maybe
some
not
time to drink, right?
I don't know. I don't know. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, and it's 5 o'clock here in the Pacific.
So Yard House.
I'm not going there, man. I'm tired of you.
No, man.
Steph, for Jay. Shout out to everybody who tapped in. We almost had about 200 people in here in the live. Appreciate you guys. With that being said, Let's go Niners, and look out for the updates. Welcome, everybody. Let's go Niners. My name is Jason Aponte.